My name is Rosa Alvarez, and for most of my life, I have been invisible. I grew up in a small village in Mexico, the eldest of 5 children. My father worked the fields until his back gave out, and my mother scrubbed other people's laundry by hand just to keep food on the table. When I turned 18, I made a promise to myself. I would work, save, and send money back so my younger siblings could have the education I never had. That promise brought me to the city. I became a maid in a wealthy household, the kind of place that looked more like a palace than a home. The marble floors gleamed, chandeliers hung in every room, and even the smallest bathroom was larger than my parents' entire kitchen back home. My employers were the Garcias. Senor Garcia was a businessman, always gone on trips, always dressed in pressed suits. His wife, Camila, was different. She was beautiful in a cold, sharp way, like a diamond that cuts rather than shines. From the moment I stepped into their house, I felt the weight of her gaze, measuring me, judging me. Camilla treated me as though I were less than human. "Rosa," she would snap, her manicured finger pointing at the floor. "You missed a spot." "Do it again?" If a glass had the slightest smudge, she accused me of laziness. If dinner wasn't seasoned exactly as she wanted, she claimed I was trying to sabotage her. Her cruelty wasn't loud, it was constant, dripping like water wearing down stone. She called me girl instead of Rosa. She would laugh about me to her friends while I served them drinks, as if I couldn't understand. "These maids," she would say, rolling her eyes, "they're all the same. Slow, stupid, desperate." And her friends would giggle, pretending not to notice the way my hands tightened around the tray. I swallowed every insult because my family depended on me. Every month I sent half my wages home. My little brother needed books for school, my sister needed shoes, my parents needed medicine. So I endured. But endurance has limits. One day, while I was polishing the silver in the dining room, I overheard Camilla speaking on the phone. Her voice was hushed, urgent. "No, don't worry about my husband. He's in Miami this week. Come tonight." Her laugh was low, flirtatious. My chest tightened as the truth hit me. She was having an affair. That evening, while I set the table, Camilla floated in, wearing a silk dress, her perfume thick in the air. The doorbell rang, and a tall man in a tailored suit stepped inside. He wasn't Senor Garcia. They kissed, right there in the entryway, as if I were invisible. Maybe to them, I was. From that night on, the man returned often. Sometimes Camilla would send me out on errands that lasted hours, just so she could be alone with him. Other times she would order me to stay in the kitchen, pretending not to hear the muffled laughter and footsteps upstairs. I told myself it was none of my business. I needed this job. I needed the money. But secrets have a way of becoming weapons, and Camilla was sharpening hers against me. One morning, she accused me of stealing. She stormed into the kitchen, waving a diamond bracelet in her hand. "I found this under your bed," she shouted, her voice echoing against the tiles. I froze. It was true. I had seen that bracelet, but I had never touched it. She must have planted it. "Senora, I swear I didn't—" "Silence!" She cut me off. "You're a thief." I knew it. "Pack your things and get out before I call the police." Her words sliced through me. After everything I had done, after all the years of swallowing my pride, she was throwing me away like trash. My stomach churned, but I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I simply nodded, walked to my small room, and gathered my few belongings. That night, as I sat in the tiny apartment of a friend, my mind spun. I had lost my job, my income, my lifeline to my family. But more than that, I had lost my patience. Camila thought she had destroyed me. What she didn't know was that I had seen too much. I knew her secret, and I knew exactly how to use it. The next morning, I went to see Señor Garcia. He had returned from his trip, and I asked for 5 minutes of his time. At first, his assistant tried to dismiss me, but when he saw my face, stern, unyielding, he let me in. Señor Garcia sat behind a massive oak desk, his eyes sharp. "Rosa? Why are you here? I thought Camilla fired you." "She did," I said calmly. "But before I go, there is something you need to know." I told him everything. The late-night phone calls, the man in the suit, the stolen hours while he was away. I described the bracelet she had planted, the lies she had spun. At first, his expression was blank, but as I continued, I saw the flicker of rage spark in his eyes. When I finished, he leaned back, his jaw tight. "Do you have proof?" "Yes." From my bag, I pulled out my phone. I had taken photos. Camilla kissing her lover in the entryway. The man slipping into the house when he thought no one was watching. Proof enough to shatter her perfect image. Señor Garcia studied the photos in silence. Then he looked at me, his voice cold. "Thank you, Rosa. Leave this with me. And don't worry. You will not be forgotten." I walked out of that office with my head held high. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. Days passed, and I heard nothing. Then, one evening, the news broke. Señor Garcia had filed for divorce. Camilla's lover was named in the papers. The scandal spread like wildfire through the wealthy circles she once ruled. Her friends, the same ones who had laughed at her cruel jokes, now whispered behind her back. She was humiliated, abandoned, ruined. And me? I received a call from Señor Garcia himself. "Rosa," he said, his tone softer now. "You've been loyal for many years. Come back. The house needs someone trustworthy, someone honest. And your salary will be doubled," I accepted. Not because I wanted to clean marble floors again, but because I wanted Camilla to see me there, walking the halls she had once ruled, now stripped of her crown. The day she came to collect her things, she found me dusting the chandelier. Our eyes met, and for the first time, she looked away. I didn't speak. I didn't gloat. I let silence be my answer. Camilla's departure from the mansion was not the grand exit she had always imagined for herself. There were no servants trailing behind her with bags, no friends waving from shiny cars. Instead, she stood in the marble foyer clutching a single suitcase, her eyes darting nervously while Señor Garcia's lawyer read aloud the terms of the separation. She would leave with nothing more than her clothes and a small allowance until the divorce was finalized. The house, the cars, the accounts, all frozen under his name. Her lover had already disappeared. The moment her scandal went public, he cut ties, unwilling to ruin his reputation. I stood nearby, polishing the banister, watching her crumble. Once, she had towered over me with sharp words and sharper laughter. Now she couldn't meet my eyes. She looked smaller, weaker, like a bird with broken wings. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. My silence pressed down on her heavier than any insult I could have thrown. When she finally walked out the door, the air in the mansion shifted. It felt lighter, freer. The staff who remained whispered in relief. No one missed her cruelty. From that day forward, my life began to change. Señor Garcia, though still stern, treated me with respect. He raised my salary, ensured I had weekends off, and even arranged for my younger brother to attend a good school back in the village. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was living. But revenge is not always a single moment. Sometimes it unfolds slowly, like a flower blooming in the sun. Months passed, and Camilla's downfall deepened. She tried to return to her circle of wealthy friends, but they shut their doors. Invitations stopped coming. Gossip followed her wherever she went. The woman who once sneered at me for being poor now sat alone in cafes, her makeup smudged, her hands trembling as she scrolled through her phone with no one to call. I learned from another maid, who worked for one of Camilla's former friends, that she was living in a cramped apartment on the edge of the city. Gone were the designer dresses, the jewels, the lavish parties. She was just another bitter divorcee, a cautionary tale whispered about at luncheons. Did I feel sorry for her? Number. Pity is wasted on those who never showed it to others. Instead, I focused on my own life. I saved money, sent more home to my family, and eventually enrolled in night classes. Education had always been my dream, and though it came late, it came sweeter for the wait. I studied business, determined to one day open a small cleaning company of my own. I wanted to give other women like me a chance at dignity and independence. Emily, the youngest maid in our staff, looked up to me. She often came to me with questions, asking how I had survived Camilla's cruelty for so long. I told her the truth. Patience, Nina, and silence. People like her destroy themselves. You don't need to raise your voice. You just need to wait. One evening, as I was finishing the laundry, I heard the bell at the gate. To my surprise, it was Camila. She looked disheveled, her hair messy, her expensive perfume replaced by the faint smell of cheap soap. "Rosa," she said, her voice cracking. "I need to speak with my husband." I kept my face calm, though inside my heart pounded with satisfaction. "He's not home," I replied. She shifted uncomfortably. "Then let me wait inside." I shook my head slowly. "I'm sorry, Senora. You don't live here anymore." Her eyes widened, filling with desperation. "Please, Rosa. I just need a moment." For a long second, I looked at her. The woman who had once called me stupid, who had planted a bracelet to ruin me, who had laughed about me to her friends, now begging me for kindness. I stepped aside, but not to let her in. Instead, I pointed toward the street. "This is no longer your house. Leave before I call security." Her lips trembled, but she turned and walked away. Her heels clicked against the pavement, each step echoing her fall from grace. That night, I sat on my small bed and thought about everything that had happened. My revenge hadn't come through shouting or fighting. It had come through truth, patience, and the quiet power of letting someone's own cruelty destroy them. The mansion, once a place of humiliation, had become my stage of triumph. Every room I cleaned, every step I took, was a reminder that respect cannot be stolen. It must be earned. But my story wasn't just about Camila's downfall. It was about transformation, hers into a shell of what she once was, and mine into a woman who finally understood her worth. Time has a way of revealing the truth about people. For months after Camila's exit, life in the Garcia household settled into a rhythm that was almost peaceful. Without her sharp voice slicing through the halls, the house seemed warmer, even with its marble floors and echoing ceilings. I worked steadily, quietly, sending money home, attending my night classes, and saving what I could. The weight that had once pressed on me each day, the fear of Camila's wrath, the humiliation of her insults, had vanished. And with that space, I began to dream again. One of those dreams became reality when Señor Garcia pulled me aside one afternoon. He was sitting in the garden, sipping coffee, his face stern but softer than I'd ever seen it. "Rosa," he said, "I owe you more than I can ever repay. You were loyal when others weren't. You showed me the truth when I was blind. I want to help you." I frowned, unsure what he meant. Help me, Signor? Yes. He leaned forward. You've always spoken of your family, your village. I know you've been studying. I want to invest in your future. Open your business, Rosa. Make it yours. Let me give you the start you deserve. I was stunned. My throat tightened and tears blurred my eyes. For so long, I had been the invisible one, the maid who blended into the background. And here was this man, powerful and wealthy, offering me a chance to step out of the shadows. With his help, I opened a small cleaning company. I named it Luce E. Hogar, Light and Home. I hired women like me, women who had been overlooked, underestimated, mistreated. I promised them fair wages, respect, and dignity. I trained them not just to clean houses, but to carry themselves with pride. Word spread quickly. Clients admired our professionalism, our honesty, our kindness. Within a year, my company was thriving. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving on scraps of someone else's wealth. I was building something of my own. But fate has a way of circling back. One afternoon, while visiting a client in a wealthy neighborhood, I saw her, Camila. She was stepping out of a taxi, her once elegant figure now weighed down by defeat. She carried groceries in a plastic bag, the kind of ordinary chore she had once mocked me for. Her face was pale, her makeup smudged, her hair pulled back into a messy knot. She saw me too. For a moment, we both froze. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Then she lowered her head and hurried away, as if my presence burned her. That night, I thought about her. The woman who had once strutted through marble halls, dripping with jewels and venom, reduced to a shadow of herself. She had mocked my poverty, planted lies to destroy me, laughed as if I were less than human. And now she lived in the world she had once despised. Did I feel triumph? Yes, but it wasn't the gloating kind. It was quieter, deeper, a sense of justice, of balance restored. Months later, I heard through whispers that Camila had tried to reconcile with Señor Garcia, begging for a second chance. But he had remarried, to a kind woman, gentle and respectful, someone who treated staff like family. Camilla's pleas fell on deaf ears. She was truly alone. Meanwhile, my own life blossomed. My siblings in the village finished their schooling. My brother became a teacher, my sister a nurse. My parents, old and tired, could finally rest without worrying about bills. And me, I was no longer Rosa the maid. I was Rosa the business owner, Rosa the provider, Rosa the woman who had turned pain into power. Still, sometimes, late at night, I would think about silence. Camilla had once tried to ruin me with a single lie. She had laughed at me, insulted me, stripped me of my dignity, and yet I had never shouted back. My revenge had not been a fiery confrontation, but a quiet unveiling of truth. Silence, patience, and dignity had done more damage to her than anger ever could. One evening, Emily, the young maid who once asked me how I had endured, came to visit me at my office. She looked around at the bustling women in uniform, the phones ringing, the laughter that filled the space. Her eyes shone. "You did it, Rosa," she whispered. "You proved everyone wrong." I smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "No, Nina, I didn't prove them wrong. I proved myself right. Never let anyone make you believe you are less than what you are." She nodded, her eyes brimming with admiration. And so my story came full circle, from invisible maid to respected woman, from mocked servant to business owner. Camilla had tried to bury me under lies, but instead, she buried herself. Her cruelty was her undoing. My patience was my salvation. I don't regret a single moment, Because sometimes revenge doesn't roar, it whispers. Sometimes it isn't fire and fury. It's the quiet satisfaction of standing tall while those who tried to break you fall apart. And sometimes silence truly is the loudest revenge.